Good morning, job seekers, and welcome. My name's James. I'm the candidate coach. It's great to have you with me online this morning. I really enjoyed today's session because today's session, we're not looking at sort of any one particular topic. If you joined me yesterday, we looked at LinkedIn profiles. Last week, we looked at resumes. And next week, we're going to be running 2 workshops on how to prepare well for interview and how to perform well. But today's topic is about little things that you can do along the way. So we call it job hunting tips because these are little things that I think that you can do to really stand out in a competitive process. And whenever you are looking for a new job, it is always competitive. Now, you might have seen in the media recently, there's a fair amount of news and reporting around the fact that unemployment in Australia is very low. And it actually is a little bit challenging for some employers to find the staff that they want. But it's really important for you as a job seeker not to get lulled, I guess, into a false sense of security that it's going to be easy to find a role. Because whenever you are applying for a job, whenever you're sending out applications, whenever you're going for an interview, it is always very competitive, regardless of what the unemployment rate is like at that time. So you need to be always putting your best foot forward. You can't rest on your laurels. You've got to show up showing the very best version of you at every step of the recruitment process. And so that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to share with you my job hunting tips in a competitive market. Alrighty, so let's get stuck straight in. But before we do, just a couple of housekeeping bits and pieces that I go over at the start of each workshop. If I do drop off the line for any reason today, if the internet falls out or gets struck by lightning, stay on the line and I will jump back on straight away. Feel free to ask questions. We've got the chat box there that most of you can see, and there's been a few comments in it already. But ask me questions throughout today and I will answer them. I'm coming to you live. This is not pre-recorded. We are coming to you live today. Take notes as we're going along, but you can also watch a replay of today's workshop on our YouTube channel at the conclusion of the session, or you can share it. Share it with friends and family who you think might need to watch it as well. Just a little bit about me, so you know who I am. James, I'm your presenter. I've been a director at Smart Recruitment since 2005, so working particularly in the Melbourne, Sydney and Adelaide recruitment markets for close to 16 years now. In that time, I've met over 300 candidates for individual interviews, conducted over 600 group assessments. And really at Smart, we focus on recruiting roles where soft skills and interview behavior and some of the small things are really important. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today comes from that experience that I've developed, and we launched the Candidate Coach late 2019. All righty, let's get into it. I'm going to give you 10 tips today. We're going to keep it numerical. I like lists, so 10. What are the 10 job hunting tips in a competitive market that if you can apply, they will help you to stand out? All right, tip number 1. Find a connection and use your network. Well, what does that actually mean, James? Find a connection and use your network. Do you know anyone that works at the organization where you are applying to? Now, the best place to start is what we went over yesterday in our workshop is LinkedIn. If you're applying for a role at an organization, before you even put in your application, have a think, go through your contact list, go through your LinkedIn profile, find out, do you actually know someone in that organization? And if you do know someone, if you don't know someone, reach out and connect to them, make a connection. But if you do know someone, see if they can help you with your application. Maybe say to them, hey, I'm actually applying for a role with your organization. Is there anything you think I should include in my cover letter? They might let you know about particular hot topics, particular values, or achievements that the organization holds in high regard. You're basically going to the source and trying to get some inside information. But if you've got a connection with somebody that works in that organization, use it. And if you don't have a connection, reach out. There's no harm in reaching out and connecting with people. Tip number 2, use people's names in your cover letter. Now, if you didn't watch our workshop last week on cover letters, go back to our YouTube channel and watch it again. But in this workshop, I talk about the importance of using someone's name on a cover letter. Whenever I advertise a role, I always put my name on my advertisements. Now, I know not all recruiters put their name on their advertisements, and you might be sitting there thinking, James, it's really hard to find out the person's name. But actually, if there's no name on the advertisement, what's to stop you picking up the phone, calling the organization and saying, hi, I'm just about to apply for the accounts receivable position. Would you mind telling me whose name I should address the cover letter to? Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Now, if you got the name, put it on the cover letter. Guess what? That could be the one thing that makes you stand out. Because if I get 100 cover letters and 99 of them say, dear sir or madam, but one of them uses my name, I'm impressed. I'd be thinking, how did that person get my name? No one else has used my name on the cover letter, but this person has. That could be enough for them to give you a phone call. And that phone call could be enough to get you an interview, and the interview gets you the job. But if you don't pick up the phone and you don't have a first name on the cover letter, maybe that opportunity passes you by. But anywhere else throughout the recruitment process, use the recruiter's name or use the person that you are talking to. Whenever we speak to people, we like it when people use our name. If I was talking to you individually and your name was Mark, I'd say, good morning, Mark. If you ask me something, I'd say, great question, Mark. And at the end of the conversation, I'd say, thanks for speaking with me today, Mark. Humans, you and I, we like it when people use our name. Don't go over the top and use it in every sentence, but if you can use it in the cover letter and during the interview and when you're meeting people, people will be impressed. People will be impressed. And they will feel that you've remembered them, and we like to be remembered. So using somebody's name in the recruitment process sounds like a really small thing. It's a small thing that can make all the difference. It can make all of the difference. At the same time, when somebody turns up for an interview with us and they've been told in advance who they're meeting, and they come to reception and they say, I can't quite remember who I'm here to see, bow, 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 bow. That is a really bad first impression. So use people's names. It will count in your favor. And the best way to do that is to take notes. So if you meet someone, if you have a conversation, take notes, note down who you were speaking to. All right, tip number 3, have an achievements-based resume. Again, last week we did a whole workshop on resumes. Go and watch that if you'd like. But my biggest tip for resumes is that your resume needs to sell you. And the best way for your resume to sell you is to have an achievements-based resume. So if you're wondering, James, what is an achievements-based resume? Why should I have achievements? Well, your resume normally tells me what you did in the job. Nearly every resume tells me what you did in the job. 9 times out of 10, though, recruiters have got a pretty good idea on what you actually did in that job. We've got an understanding. If you've been working in hospitality as a barista, I've got an understanding of what you did in that role. So what I'm more interested in is not actually what you did, but how well did you do it? How well did you do it? And your achievements tell me that. So a lot of the time when you're applying for a role, other candidates have the same qualification. Other candidates have the same experience. It's your achievements. It's your achievements that make you stand out. So do your best to have an achievements-based resume. Alrighty. We're going pretty fast today. I hope you're keeping up. Tip number 4. Show what you know about the company and the organization. So when we meet with candidates, and we meet with a lot of candidates, we meet with candidates every day, there is a huge difference. And I don't want to undersell this, but there is an absolutely massive difference. How wide can I go and still stay in the screen? There is a ginormous difference between the candidates who do great research and those that do none. So you need to do your research and you need to show what you know about the organization that you're meeting with. At a minimum, you want to go onto their website and their careers page. But you also need to dig a little bit further and find out recent news about them. Find out, maybe read some publications. Look for some industry news as well. You must do more research. If you want to beat other candidates, you need to do at least as much research, if not more, than other candidates. So you need to show what you know. company websites, as I mentioned, careers pages, but press releases and annual reports. I'm not saying you need to go out and do 10 hours research, but you need to show you've done some. You need to show you've done some, because if you haven't done that level of research, other candidates are going to quickly pass you by. So let me share with you, and some of you might have seen this before, a post from Stefan Wheelack, who is a well-known Melbourne recruiter, and he popped this on LinkedIn in the last 12 months. I'm just going to read it out to you from over here, my presentation screen. Stefan wrote, "Credentials on your resume will get you that first interview, but it's not the key to your next position. Looking at the people we hired recently or who will be joining us shortly, there is one thing they all have in common. They were uber prepared. They have dug deep into what we do and stand for. They impressed us with their understanding of our business and the problems we are trying to solve. Yet, not all of them were exactly what we were looking for. On the opposite side, I interviewed a candidate the other day who looked great on paper. But when I spoke with her, she had no idea what we were doing and said she'd only research a company once she lands an on-site interview. Well, it's a Zoom interview these days. Though if you haven't spent any time researching our company, you are missing the mark." Here's the key paragraph now. "I understand that doing research takes effort and you don't even know if it'll pay off. However, that's exactly what other applicants do to get the job. And they're the ones you compete with right from the beginning of your application." So thinking, oh, that's just enough. I've done just enough research. It's not good enough. You need to think this is a competitive process. There's 100 people applying for a job here. I need to be in the top 10% minimum for my research. I need to do research because that's what the best candidates are doing. And if you really want the job, you need to act like the best candidate. You might not be the best candidate, but if you act like it, it could be enough to get the job. All right, tip number 5, research the recruitment process. Okay, this is a bit of a different one. What do I mean by research the recruitment process? So find out, what tests are you going to be taking? If an employer or a company has sent you an online test to do, before you do it, you can actually Google that test. So you'll probably know the company name or the test name, or you can see it in the URL. Google it. You might be able to get some inside information on how to perform well in the test or what they're looking for. What assessments will you be asked to complete? So if you're invited in for an interview, ask, what type of interview is it going to be? What should I bring along? What am I going to be asked to complete? If it's an individual or a group assessment, they're two very different things straight away. So you need to know, you need to research and have a really good understanding of what's going to happen. What do previous candidates have to say? There are review sites now where you can go and read reviews from candidates who have had interviews with this organization and find out what they had to say on going for interview with them. All right, tip number 6, practice your interview technique. It's the only way it will get better. This is actually probably the most reluctant area for many job seekers is practicing their interview technique. And it's crazy, right? Because how do you actually get better at something? How do you improve at something? You can only improve at something by practicing. Now, you don't have to practice sitting opposite somebody. It certainly helps. The next best thing is to practice in front of a mirror. But you need to practice being asked real questions on the spot and see how you answer. You need to go away and practice by writing out responses to common interview questions. Go to our candidate coaching platform, download our interview questions, and go and write your answers. What are your answers to the most common interview questions? What are the questions you're most worried about being asked at interview? Because if you're worried about being asked them at interview, you need to practice them to reduce that fear, reduce that worry, calm your nerves, but also know you've got an answer there. Most people are like, oh, I really hope I don't get asked that question. And I say, why not? And they say, oh, I can't give a good answer. That's not great. Go and practice. Go and write a good answer. Go and learn how to give a good answer. If it's something you're uncomfortable talking about, sometimes in an interview situation, bad luck. We're going to ask you about your salary expectation. If you feel uncomfortable talking about your salary, and I understand because most people do, you need to go and practice. You need to know what your answer is going to be. If you don't practice your interview technique, it won't get better. So if you're bombing out on interviews and you're not practicing, you're a bit of a sucker. If you're bombing out on interviews, go and practice. That's how you'll improve. Might sound a bit harsh, might sound a bit direct with what I'm saying, but most candidates who don't perform well at interview don't practice to get better. And if you won't practice, your interview technique will not get better. On the positive side, practice and you'll get better. Go and do it. I hope you like tip 6. All right, tip number 7. Got a question here. Who would you rather work with? Let me pop this up a bit larger on the screen. I'll give you 10 seconds to have a think about it. It really is a silly question, I guess, because who would we all rather work with? Of course, we would much rather work with somebody likable, wouldn't we? We don't want to work as somebody who's unlikable. Yet some candidates in the recruitment process come across as unlikable. Or they don't actually realize that, hey, the person that is interviewing me today, this job's working for them. This job might be sitting next to them. This person might be thinking, hey, I'm going to be sitting next to you for 40 hours a week, 48 weeks of the year. And if you're in this job for 3 years, that is a lot of time. We're going to spend 150 weeks together for 40 hours. If you're not coming across as likable, I'm not going to employ you. So you need to be likable. It will increase your chances of getting the job. You need to smile. You need to look somebody in the eye. You need to have open communication and open posture and open body language. You need to have a little bit of a laugh, pay a compliment, have a firm handshake. Show the person that's interviewing you that you are likable and you would be an enjoyable person to work with. Tip number 8. Ask great questions. This one gets me really excited. This one gets me very, very excited because at the end of every interview, whether it's a phone interview or it's a face-to-face or it's a video interview, you're going to get the opportunity to actually ask some questions yourself. Now, this is one of the, if not the only opportunity that you have as the candidate to kind of set the tone or set the agenda. So if you can ask great questions here, then you can really stand out. You can go from being just an average candidate to being the leading candidate just by asking 2 really great questions at the end of the interview. So how do we actually ask great questions? Well, first of all, we need to have done our research. We need to have done our research. So we don't want to ask questions that are, where's the job located? What's the salary? What are the hours? That information's either in the ad or hopefully it's come up. But here we want to show we've done a level of research into the organization and a level of research into the industry. Maybe we actually ask a question as well that helps to highlight our experience. So draw on your research. Maybe start off with, I was reading the company's annual report. Now, it kind of doesn't matter what question you've got after you say that, because if you start off with, I was reading the company's annual report, the interviewer is thinking, whoa, this candidate's read our annual report. I've not ever read our annual report. This candidate's really interested. That's amazing. So use this opportunity to ask great questions. Now, what I would encourage you to do before your interview is write down 6 or 7 great questions. The reason you want to write down 6 or 7 is some of them might actually get answered throughout the interview, and you don't want to repeat a question that's been answered. You probably only want to ask 2 or 3, but write down 6 or 7 just in case. For me, this is the best way for you to really stand out, because you're not only just asking a great question, but you're highlighting what you've done. And a lot of candidates do it badly, so it's a great opportunity for you to stand out. All right, tip number 9, positive, responsive communication. It is amazing as a recruiter how many candidates communicate really badly with me. First of all, with the phone, you must have a voicemail. You must have a voicemail. At Smart Recruitment, we'll be calling people today to interview tomorrow to start on Monday. If you don't answer the phone today and we can't leave you a voicemail, we might not call back for a couple of days and the job's gone. You need to have a voicemail that can receive a message, ideally, preferably not those 10-second ones because it's not enough, but have a voicemail that we can leave a message. And if a message is left, contact that person back as soon as you can. You also want to remember that you're applying for work, so answer the phone in a positive and a professional manner. If you're in the supermarket and you don't want to miss the call, yes, it's okay to answer the call in the supermarket, but just tell the person, hey, I'm in the supermarket. Do you mind calling me back in 20 minutes, or can I call you back at a particular time? Show interest in the person that you're meeting with. Ask them about themselves. How long have you worked here? Why do you like this organization? Hey, I had a look at your LinkedIn profile. You started in an account, so now you're in marketing. How did that occur? Show some interest in who you're meeting. People like it when they have someone show interest in them. Ask for honest feedback and really mean it. At the end of the interview, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you saying, do you mind providing me with a little bit of feedback on my interview performance? Now, the recruiter might say, oh, look, we're not allowed to do that. That's fine. Don't worry about it. They're not allowed to do it. But they might say, oh, look, I think you did really well today. Perhaps you could have given a couple of better examples to this question, but overall it was quite good. You can actually get some feedback here if you ask, but also what you're showing is another two things. You're showing enthusiasm and interest. You want to know how you've done, but you're also showing you're open to learning and developing. You would like to receive some feedback. Have a thankful attitude with every interactions, whether it's a telephone call, say, thanks for speaking with me today about the job. At the end of the face-to-face interview, thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. Show that you're thankful, show that you've got good manners, show that you're polite and friendly. If you do these things, it increases your chances. You just go up a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further each time. And just something as simple as maybe sending a thank you email to the interviewer within 24 hours, that might just nudge you ahead of the other candidates. It sounds silly, doesn't it? But it's such a competitive process that doing the small things can actually add up to being a really big thing. And then tip 10, my final tip today, missing out is not the end of the world. I was like this early in my career as a graduate. When I missed out on a couple of jobs, and one in particular I was so keen on, I thought it was the end of the world. I was a graduate. I'd really wanted to work for this company. They had 7 stages of interviews. I think I got to round 3 and then was cut. I was flat. I was devastated. I didn't kind of know what to do. But it's not the end of the world. You are going to miss out on far more job applications than you land, because you only need to land one. But to land one, you might need to make many. If missing out on one knocks you down a lot, you could still be down when the next opportunity comes along. So, of course, take a day or two, feel disappointed, mourn that you missed out on that opportunity, but then we need to move on. We need to move on. We need to move forward. We need to move upwards and try to learn from what you think you did wrong with that application. Alrighty. So a reminder on some of our upcoming workshops. So next week is a great week. Next week is interview week. So we're doing 2 workshops. On Tuesday next week, we're talking about how to prepare well. How do you prepare well and stand out in the interview room? And on Thursday, we're then going to talk about how do you give great answers to interview questions. So wherever you're watching our workshop today, be back here Tuesday next week at 10, Thursday next week at 10. It's a slightly different time to today. And you can join our workshops for how to perform well and how to give great interview answers. But if you're wanting more assistance before then, a reminder of what's available to you on our candidate coaching platform. We've got 12 coaching videos that you can watch today. We have resume and cover letter templates that you can download and fill in. We've also got interview questions that you can download to practice. I said, if you're not confident, go and download some of our interview questions and practice them. We have online tests, so you can go and take a pre-employment assessment and see how you fare with that skill. We've got downloadable checklists to make sure you're best prepared at each step of the journey. We have articles you can read. We have specific content for executive job seekers, and we have mental health support. So if looking for work is knocking you around a little bit, check out our mental health support page. And we have always advertised our live and upcoming workshops. And all of this is available to you for free on our candidate coaching platform. Now, before we finish today, one thing I would love for you to do for me is to go and complete our 2-minute survey. So our Survey Monkey link, which we've got on the screen there, would love for you to go. I'll just copy and paste that into the chat there. Please go and complete that for me. That would be very, very helpful. We ask you what you thought of today's session. We also ask you, what would you like to know in future sessions? So we want some feedback there for you to share with us around, hey, this session was good. In future, could you maybe cover these topics? And also follow us on our LinkedIn page. We put a lot of content on there. We advertise all of our events. We'll pop a link to that into the chat function. As we always do, we'll just finish today with this short video, which we love to share with job seekers around how to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, because looking for work presents its own unique set of challenges. So thanks for watching today. We'll conclude with this video, and I hope to see you back here next week for Job Interview Preparation Week. Bye-bye.
If you're not feeling terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. I work with a lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work and undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical on ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and well-being might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job, or there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.